Adventure doesn't wait for a cracked windshield. Windshield defense by Racing Optics is like a screen protector for your phone. Triple layer, race tested, and installs in just 20 minutes. Save 20% with code JTS20 at windshieldefense.com. The clear choice.
Hey everybody, I'm Amanda and welcome to Chic Chat. Chic Chat is the place where we celebrate the perfect fusion of style and adventure. Jeeps have long been synonymous with ruggedness, freedom, and the spirit of adventure. And who says women can't embrace all that and more?
Well, welcome. This is Wendy, and I'm so excited that you guys are joining us. We are Chic Chat Team A, which I think is amazing because we are amazing girls. We go out and do stuff and have fun.
The A-Team.
So I thought this would be a fun episode, Amanda, just to talk about a flight plan. Have you ever heard of that before? Filing an actual flight plan?
Yes, I have. No experience in it, obviously, but I have, and I'm loving the idea of it.
So the first thing I want to say to our listeners is that, you know, we never really recommend that you go out by yourself. Obviously, you want to go with somebody. You want to have a buddy with you for a very, very amount of reasons, right? You could break down. You need help. It's just more fun to have somebody go with you. So, but there is, even if you're going with somebody, what we call filing a flight plan. Essentially what that means is telling somebody where you're planning to go and when you think you're going to be back. I mean, that's it in a nutshell, pretty simple. So I do have kind of a list of some things to think about that do make it easy. I have like a master list that I use that just is an easy printed out sheet of paper that you could just write in the information. The key to this whole thing is that you need to give it to somebody who's actually going to pay attention. You know, if you say you're leaving at 8 and you're going to be back at 4 and it's 10 o'clock that night and that person's never checked on you, well, that's not the right person to give the flight plan to, because something could be happening to where you're out in the field expecting someone to come find you and you've done that. So make sure that you give this plan to somebody who you know at, 4:30 is going to go, hey, where are you? And start the phone calls or start, maybe sending out a search party. So, all right. Well, basically what a flight plan is that you want to set out the date of your trip. So if you're going to go on a trail, maybe you're by yourself with somebody else. And again, this is going to mostly matter for people that maybe you're brand new. You're not sure the area that you're going to. Maybe you're venturing another state, another trail, another path. And you are just like, I want to go check that out. It's really good to let somebody know where you think you're going to go. Okay. The other thing is if you sort of have this flight plan and you're going to go do this trail, but somewhere in the middle of the day you changed and went somewhere else, you kind of need to let somebody know so that if you don't come back, they kind of know that maybe you deviated from the plan. So those are kind of some basic rules of filing a flight plan. So anyway, what you want to do is it one day? Is it a few days? Especially if you're going to be gone a couple of days. I would say you definitely want to let somebody know what's your path, what's the trails you plan to go on, the stops you might want to make. And then maybe if you're gone for a couple of days, you actually check in with that person, a text. Hey, we made it to point A. Now we made it to point B, made it to point C. So that you're just keeping in touch with whoever's sort of monitoring that. Okay. Now, super important is when you're going to depart and when you're expected to return. Now, the person that you give this to, if you say you're going to be back at 4 and they're not an off-road wheeler, then you better let them know, look, if you don't hear from me by 5, because we all know that sometimes trails, obstacles, things like that, they do take longer. Maybe there's a ton of people on that trail today. And what you thought was going to be a 3-hour trip is now a, 10-hour trip because there's somebody else is broken down or you're helping. Again, it's called communication. So you kind of want to make sure that you're communicating correctly. Destination's important to be on this basic flight plan. What exactly are the coordinates? If you know the actual trail, numbers or designation or names or even the GPS coordinates, that would be the best, because if something happens, at least know where to find you, kind of a deal. If you are going with somebody else and you're just following, maybe give that name of who the person is you're with. So if Amanda and I were going to go on a trip and Amanda was leading me on her trail, I would let somebody know that Amanda's contact information, her phone number, this is who you contact if you don't hear from me. So at least you know who else to talk to. Same thing for you, Amanda. If you were coming with me and you're in a different region, you're not sure, you would say, oh, I'm with Wendy. Here's her phone number. And you would have that on that sheet of paper. So hopefully that kind of makes sense. It's pretty simple. If you're going to be spending overnights, a couple of nights, what hotel are you staying at? Or is it a campground? Or are you planning to just wing it in, the wild? Try to list out some of those coordinates, or maybe a crossroad if there is any. I know where we wheel, there are no street signs. There's very little designation. And if you don't remember the trail number marker you were on, 3 miles back, you're not going to necessarily have that information. So try to think about it, look on a map, try to figure out where point A to point Z is in a sense, and just be able to get that information. So another thing too that people don't think about is what GMRS channel are you going to be on? So maybe you're using a ham radio, list that information, your ham radio designation, list a GMRS channel that you're going to be on. Because maybe they're trying to reach you and the cell phone doesn't work, which we all know that happens in some of these trails. How can they get a hold of you? If the person that you're giving the flight plan to has a ham radio and you do too, then make sure they have it turned on so that you could actually communicate out to them if you needed something. GMRS radio is going to be more line of sight. You can get pretty far if you're on top of a hill. But where's your buddy that is waiting to hear from you? Are they down in a valley? Are they hidden? Are they unable to, reach you? So, but you can do GMRS and connect with other people and possibly link it together. So there are some things, but again, having that information on the piece of paper gives the person that's trying to find you more information. And your contact information. I mean, I know my friends know who I am and my phone number, but maybe you're giving it to somebody who is an off-roader, who isn't going out, who is going to stay home, but maybe they don't remember how to get a hold of you. So making sure that information is there too. And your vehicle information. So I'm in a white Jeep, 2008 JKU. If you're in a Gladiator, if you're in a, Toyota truck, if you're in something, what's the color? Because believe it or not everybody knows that I drive a white Jeep that I might give that to, right? They know that I'm driving a Jeep, but not necessarily what color or what year. So that's something too. And super important on that list is an emergency contact. So who do they need to call? Hey, we haven't heard from Wendy. What do you want us to do? Maybe there's animals to feed or there's someone else to contact. So making sure that on your piece of paper, your flight plan, you've listed some of this valuable information and you've given it to somebody who, as I say, is going to be responsible. So that means somebody's actually going to follow up and say, I haven't heard from her. It's 5:00. So anyway, those are kind of the basic things that are super important for that flight plan. I know there's probably other information you could put on there. If you are a diabetic or you have some medical emergencies or things that you need pills, maybe that could be included. Again, not sure, exactly what, how much information you want to give somebody, but that would be something that would be of importance on that.
Hey Jeepers, Tony here from the Jeep Talk Show. You know how you protect your phone screen with a protector? Now you can do the same thing for your Jeep, Bronco, Ineos, or G-Wagon. Windshield Defense by Racing Optics is a triple-layered, race-tested solution that installs in under 20 minutes, right at home or with your local installer. Made in the USA and trusted for over 25 years, it keeps your view crystal clear and your windshield safe from rock, debris, or whatever the trail throws your way. Don't let a rock end your ride. Protect your windshield, protect your story, and keep the adventure rolling. And now save 20% with code JTS20 at windshieldefense.com. That's windshieldefense.com, promo code JTS20. Born from racing.
So anyway, that's really cool. Now, the interesting thing about a flight plan is sometimes you're like, I'm an experienced wheeler. I don't need to tell anybody where I'm going. I don't really give a darn. I know these trails, and we up here in Big Bear, we know every single one of them. I'm not sure I could tell you the actual trail number. I might know the name of the trail. But for example, we went on a Gold Mountain run to do some cleanup. We were done by 2:30. We were all together as a club. We took off on the backside of it. And that's when Don Alexander and ourselves actually broke down, the two of us at the same time. It was crazy. and everybody else was ahead of us. So they were all gone. And finally we reached out to them and said, hey, can somebody come back and help? Well, long story short, we got off that mountain at 9:30 at night. And I'd already made a trip back to the house, got the big Chevy and the flatbed trailer. We put Dawn's Jeep on it and wheeled it out. I mean, we were broke down. It was like crazy. So that's a perfect example of, had we been alone, just Dawn and I, or just myself broken down, who would I have called? Well, there's a lot of people up here that we know. But what if I was with a trail that I didn't know, or what I was out of my area? Maybe my friends are, 4 or 5 hours away. So it's important to really think about that. Even an experienced wheeler, just letting somebody know where you're going to go, what time you think you're going to be back. And then if you have cell service, or you have a way to let them know that you've changed the plan. Hey, we thought we were done at 3, but we stopped at such and such a place to have lunch. We'll be back at 7. That's fine too, but just so that somebody knows, because there are times when things happen. And a lot of times we are not, we don't have cell service. We're not able to make that contact and get somebody to help us. So it is important to think about that. So what do you think about that, Amanda? Does that help you when you're out wheeling now? You're going to be like, I got to have a flight plan now.
Yeah. So I loved all the stuff that you said there. And, I think it's super important because, like you said, no matter how experienced you are, anything could happen. You could have a flat tire, you could break down, somebody could get sick on the trail. Yeah. And so, you need to know what's happening. And I know, like, this isn't something that I'm super familiar with, right? Because here, if we're going wheeling, we talked about like off-road parks. Like I can say, hey, I'm going to Hidden Falls for the day, or Barnwell, and I'm within like a confined area. But still, you need to let somebody know, right? Because if you don't show back up, somebody needs to go to that park and look for you.
Yeah.
right?
Or to know which park to go to, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But so when I went on a trip a while back, I was out of state. I did something like this, now that you're going through and talking about this, I think about all the important things that I left out, right? But what I did was I put it on a shared Google document with my mom. Ooh. Right. And so because I was out of town with some friends, and as the plans changed or whatever, I would just update it in that document. And then when I got cell service or whatever, because we were kind of doing backcountry stuff, it would automatically update. So she would know, kind of where I was at and what I was doing, and, where to send the search party if I didn't show back up at home. So, but there's all different kinds of ways, I think, that you can provide this information to somebody to help keep yourself safe.
I know there's a lot of experienced wheelers who probably will listen to this and think, there's no way I'm going to file it. There's just no way I'm going to make this list. I'm not going to do that. And that's okay too. I think the key is that if you are a new wheeler and you don't know anybody yet, you're out trying to wheel and do some roads and check things out yourself. I think this is an excellent way to say to somebody, even if they're not an off-road person, hey, I'm going to drive up to Big Bear. I'm going to take these 3 trails. I think it's going to take me this long. I may not have cell service, but just in case, this is when I think I will, I'll connect with you about this time. And at least a family member can feel confident. And a lot of times when you're a new Jeeper, you really don't have anybody to go out with. You're still learning to find people, and you're learning to, join a club, not join a club, go on a run, check out a run, where do I find runs? So I think that would be a good suggestion, is a lot of new people. Just, think about this. And do you have to make it as detailed as I listed? No. You don't have to. You can just say, this is the date, time, I'm going out, whatever. But at least let somebody know that you're on a trail, you're going out, because anything can happen. And sometimes an easy road is washed out. There could be something in the way. There could be a rock that was bigger. You could have a flat tire. Maybe you don't have all your tools in your setup yet. Maybe you're not quite sure where you are. That happens too when you wheel, because there's lots of fun offshoots and roads. You're like, where does that go? Where does that go? So I just think it's a good idea to file it, to have a piece of paper, give it to somebody who you trust that will look at the time and check on you. And also not panic and send the whole National Guard if you don't respond, but then at some point can get somebody in there to help you out. So, all right, let's see if we get Amanda back. See if she's there. There she is. So, all right. Do you want to add anything else, Amanda? I think this was just a good little segue into ways to stay safe, especially if you're newer to Jeeping?
No, I mean, I think you definitely covered it. And I think having actually like the written down piece of paper to remind you of everything that's important for people to know is, a great idea, and definitely something for somebody that's going out for the first time or alone and not familiar with the area. I think it's definitely important for somebody to keep themselves safe, and also to give your family and friends a peace of mind, maybe that aren't quite as adventurous as you. If we're going to give a flight plan, the Jeep Talk Show has a wheeling event at Hot Springs this coming weekend. So, we will be out there for that. So, but I do not know the trails, so I cannot I can't get that specific yet because I don't plan ahead. But yeah, we plan to be in Hot Springs this weekend with the Jeep Talk Show crew and hopefully some listeners. So
that'll be awesome. I look forward to always hearing about that. It's always fun to get together with people that like to do it. You guys, I hear it's a beautiful area to wheel in. I've been through that area on a motorcycle. It's stunning. I can only imagine what it would be like off-road. I wished it was closer to here. I could try to go and hang out with you guys, but it's on the other side of Texas. It's on the other side of Studio A. So it's a little further.
Yeah, it's even further for you. But one day I will get out in your direction and do some wheeling in your home territory, because I know that's beautiful. So I can't wait for that. But yeah, Hot Springs this weekend. The weather's not looking that great, but we plan on going and sticking it out, rain or shine. So it'll be beautiful. It'll be fun.
Well, that's what wheeling's all about, right? Bring some extra ponchos, extra supplies, just in case you all get flooded somewhere. It is the Ozarks, by the way. So, anything can happen.
It literally, yes. But thankfully it's a rocky area, so it's not like super muddy or yucky or any of that stuff. But it'll be interesting. It'll be humid, quite steamy out there, but it'll be great.
Anyway, but thank you guys for listening to us. We really do appreciate it.
We do. Anyway, we appreciate you guys. And that's it for this episode of Chick Chat. We hope you've been inspired by the stories, insights, and tips we've shared today. Remember, there's no limit to what you can achieve when you embrace your passions and fearlessly chase your dreams. If you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to the Jeep Talk Show so you never miss an episode. Remember, embrace the thrill of the off-road, embody your own unique style, and always keep pushing the boundaries of what you thought possible, because anything is possible.
Absolutely. All right. Take care. Bye.
Bye, Wendy.
Broadcasting since 2010.
You're my friend. You're my new friend.